Let's bow in, everyone. So welcome to the Buddhist Path of Awakening Foundation course. Tonight we are going through chapters 65 and 66. I'm having to do a lot with Shamatha and Vipassana, and Dan is going to lead off. So Dan?
Hello and welcome. So now we are at chapter 65, having gone through the lesser and middle path of accumulation. We are now at the greater path of accumulation. Rinpoche begins us off by saying at the level of the greater path of accumulation, the practitioner begins to develop not only mindfulness, shamatha, and awareness, vipassana, but now the practice of being mindful and aware at the same time. In other words, shamatha vipassana. And having advanced to vipassana, we have to go back and rediscover shamatha. So we can combine these two. And this takes two types of efforts, he says. In joining the shamatha and vipassana, the teachings speak of two types of effort: the practice of surrendering and the practice of continuity. Surrendering is the devotional virya, he calls it, and continuity is ongoing virya. The virya is the effort. Right? There are two types of effort: surrendering and continuity. And this means we are willing to go along with the practice for the rest of our life, the continuity part. Surrendering is the practice of devotion, and continuity is the willingness to go along with this practice for the rest of our life. And these two are the core of shamatha vipassana practice. And shamatha vipassana is the way we move from the path of accumulation to the second path of unification, and it is the vanguard, as he calls it, of the Mahayana practice of shunyata. Shamatha vipassana, we sit and have awareness of our surroundings with the shamatha practice of deliberateness. And in vipassana, we combine these two together to 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 achieve these two types of effort. And this is an approach that is highly recommended by many great teachers, he says. In shamatha vipassana, we feel the breath going out into the environment, and that is the shamatha practice, the precision of the breath going out and its verge, and then the verge of going into space where uh, where the breath dissolves, and the feeling of completeness around us everywhere, that is in all directions, and a global environmental feeling. It's the figure and ground simultaneously. When the breath dissolves, it is taking place in the whole universe, and you are in a sense nowhere. Finally, you lose the reference point as to who is breathing and where the breathing is dissolving, and that's the vipassana aspect. He calls this the desolate space and precision and accuracy simultaneously. But he says we still have a long way to go because we have not yet touched upon shunyata. He says because there is a subtle sense of self, and although the heaviest part of our neurosis has been removed, there is still the feeling of duality, the sense of the practice and the sense of the teachings and the practice itself is a duality, the sense that we are doing the practice. So that duality is the separation between ourself and the sense of doing the practice. And he says, with practice, our belief in the physical existence is being pulled apart, but we still believe in the discontinuity. That's the duality. there's still some kind of trust that we are going to continue, and we have to practice and work with it. So we lose our bodies, but we can still practice. As the breath dissolves into space, we lose our sense of the body and we dissolve into space, but it takes effort to bring these two together, right? And that mixing comes from these two types of efforts. The virya of the effort, the virya of devotion, leans towards the practice of precision, which is the coming together of all our fantasies into the simple focusing on the breath, and that's the shamatha aspect. And the virya of continuity, or tajor in Tibetan, is related to the vipassana, so we need both happening simultaneously. So this path is separated into four legs. He calls this the four legs of the miracle. Right. On this greater path of accumulation, we approach shamatha vipassana in terms that are called the four legs: the strong interest, the effort, second leg; recollection is the third leg, and the fourth leg is investigation. Right. And we are convinced that developing shamatha vipassana in this way not only cuts through what he's talking about, the three lower realms, but the world of passion altogether. So we're cutting through our desire through these two efforts. The strong interest is called dunpa in Tibetan, and this is the attitude that we are going to apply ourselves to shamatha vipassana practice. And at this level of the greater path of accumulation, the root of the entire kamadhatu is cut. Right? Kamadhatu is the crude, uh, realm of desire. Right? The three dhatus. He goes on to explain that the three dhatus are how we are cutting through the realm of desire. The body is related to the kamadhatu, and that's the crude desire. Speech is related to the rupa dhatu, which is the subtle desire, and the mind is with the arapa dhatu, which is the very refined desire. So desire gets more refined and subtle as we go up through the dhatus. With meditation, we conquer the crude desire, then the subtle desire, and then the very refined desire of the kama, rupa, and arapa dhatus, respectively. Shamatha vipassana practice is the only way which we can accomplish this. Cutting the realm of desire, the kama dhatu, is the heaviest of the three. Here is the root. Here, the root kama dhatu has been cut. Right. Effort is the second leg of the miracle, or tsondru in Tibetan. It's strenuous because we are working on one-pointed and spatial awareness, shamatha and vipassana, simultaneously, and this is highly demanding. We have gone through the shamatha first and the vipassana second, separately, before we come to the shamatha vipassana practice itself, because combining these two takes a lot of effort. The way we go through this is through recollection and investigation and okay, I'm sorry here. We're going through the effort first, which is the second leg of the miracle. And this is the strenuousness that is required to combine shamatha and vipassana. And then we go through recollection, right? And this recollection doesn't mean remembering in the way that we normally think of it. It doesn't mean capturing our experiences, but being awake in a different way than just that. We are totally awake and free from any unnecessary commitments because recollection has nothing to do with memory. It's entirely different. It could refer to recalling the past, but it also means to think. So recollection isn't about remembering the details of our life, but is remembering of the present experience of the past. And he goes on to give an example, like even a simple statement such as, there is a car, is not quite free from the past because we are relying on our previous experiences to know there is a car. So even though our awareness practice is not a product of the past, immediate experience or seemingly immediate experience has its root in habitual thinking of the past, and that is what we want to become aware of. But nevertheless, he goes on to say, such habitual patterns also have subconscious, clear, resourceful, and present intelligence. So he says there's no chance to relate to our case history because we are right there. And this is an expression of freedom. He says, Trungpa is the sense of perspective that we are aware that you are just about to give up our lovable world, the world of desire, and we begin to have all kinds of panic and fear because feeling that the good old days were beautiful, but now that is threatened because we are giving up living in the past, basically. And then through investigation, when we are in the state of shamatha vipassana practice, we have to examine ourselves constantly. And unless we are able to get inspired by strenuous investigation, we won't be able to identify ourselves with the teachings. This is the third stage of the path of accumulation, and it is extremely important. It is the last possibility for us as ordinary people to be able to transform ourselves into a higher person or a noble person. And this is the greater path of accumulation. He says it is the only way that we can do this, right? It's the only way that an ordinary person can do this, not an arhat or a bodhisattva, but it's the only way for an ordinary person to become one of the noble ones. In this third stage of the path of accumulation, we are approaching the Pratyeka Buddhayana, and we have a sense of freedom, liberation, and emancipation. Right? We discover that we are about to cut the realm of desire and enter the desireless realms. Shamatha vipassana practice is the only way that one could bring you to the supernatural, superhuman level, and there is no other way. And with that, I will hand it over to John.
Good evening. I think I'd like to start by guiding the meditation. So if you could just take a good posture. Let's practice both shamatha, mindfulness practice, and vipassana, as we do every day. So with a good posture, you can scratch your head if you like. You bring your awareness right here into this space, this room that we're in right now. You're aware of anything and everything that presents itself effortlessly. You don't have to focus your attention or make an effort of any kind. Whatever is presenting itself, the walls, the windows, this person sitting here on your computer screen and talking to you, the sound of this voice, the feeling now that I mention it of your bottom on the chair or the cushion, whatever you're sitting on, all of the data, you might say, of the five senses and mind, because mental events come and go. Thoughts, I don't understand this. I do understand this. Oh, this is great. This is terrible. Whatever it might be. Um, all those thoughts, as well as the objects of the five senses, sights, sounds, occasional smells, maybe, tastes, probably not right now, but who knows, bodily sensations, tactile sensations, and mental events. These are called the six knowables, and they're all arising in this space. The awareness of this space, including anything and everything, is vipassana, awareness practice. Vipassana literally means superior seeing. Why is it superior? Because it's wide open. It accepts anything and everything that happens to appear. And there's no particular right or wrong. It's not like you have to be aware of this and the other is not so important. It's whatever happens to present itself to you. And even maybe it's not even presenting itself to you, it's just there, appearing, like this hand gesture, these sounds. And we're here effortlessly, awake and aware of it. This is Vipassana, space awareness, awareness of the whole environment. And at its best, it is completely effortless because it's here all the time. It's part of our basic being. It's really what we are. We get lost in dreams from time to time. You think, oh, what am I going to have for dinner? Or, oh, I should have called so and so. And we go off in a dream. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to have a hard day. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to have a terrific day. And we go off in these dreams. And then we come back. And we come back to what? To this space that we inhabit. Here we are. Now, within this space, we can, if we wish, become more precise. We can focus our mind on an object. So, for instance, in shamatha, that's what we always do, mindfulness practice. We use something. It might be the breath, might be a mantra, who knows what it is. You use that as a way of bringing yourself back from dreams of the past and future, because they're so seductive. They really have a grip on you. And when you realize you're dreaming, you could come back to the breath and you go out with the breath. In this particular style of shamatha, you go out with the breath and it dissolves into this space. And at the end of the out breath, when it has completely dissolved, here we are again, resting in awareness in this space. So let's just do it. You become aware of the breath. It arises. You can feel it as it departs from your nostrils or your lips, whichever you prefer. It goes out into space. You visualize it going out into space. Here's the space. There's the breath. And the breath goes out, dissolving. And at the end, it's completely dissolved. And there's just this computer screen, this image, this feeling of your body, your awareness of the room. Out breath, dissolve, awake, here and now. Out breath, dissolving, vipassana, awake. This is the combining of shamatha and vipassana. It's like vipassana is the space, shamatha is a highlight. Could be the breath, could be a mantra, could be anything, really. Could be this pen that you hold up and move out and then it's gone. The shamatha element is a focus. You focus your mind on it. It brings you back from dreams of the past and the future. It goes out, dissolves into this space, and here we are, awake in the present. This is the practice of shamatha vipassana combined. Shamatha is the focus on an object. It goes out, it dissolves, and when it dissolves, there's nothing left but the vipassana, the space awareness. This is the practice that will free us from what are called the three realms that Dan was referring to. The three realms are the three realms of confusion, samsara. They are the realm of desire, which is called the kama realm. Kama means desire in Sanskrit. Dhatu means realm, so it's called the kama dhatu. Above that is a purely mental place. It's a place of focus, of concentration on an object. So it's kind of a trance state, and it's called the rupa dhatu, the realm of pure form, rupa. And you achieve it by focusing your mind completely, one-pointedly on an object. Could be the breath. You focus it continuously. So you might work with the out-breath and the in-breath. And you achieve complete one-pointed focus. There are actually 4 different styles of this practice. Working with the breath is one of them. And then above that, even more subtle, is what's called the formless realm, the arupa dhatu, where you are focusing on abstractions. Things like pure space is your object of awareness. And then beyond that, not this and not that, and so forth. These are abstractions. The kama dhatu, though, is the one that we're the most familiar with, the realm of desire, because it contains within it the 6 realms. They are the God realm, which is the highest realm in the realm of desire. It's the realm of pure happiness all the time, with slight little checking and doubts about it. And then beneath that, the jealous God realm, that's the people who want to get into the God realm. I've always thought of them as being kind of like Wall Street traders who want to make $1 billion. They can see the people who've already made it. They're in the God realm and they want to make it, so they're working really hard. I used to be a life coach, and I had some of those people as my clients. A lot of them are completely unscrupulous, really criminal about how they go about trying to storm the God realm, get their $1 billion. And beneath that is the human realm. This is the realm of passion. This is the realm of appreciating the pleasures of life. It's kind of like, you have a terrific dinner and you have a nice little chablis, and you finish it off with whatever you're going to have, one wonderful dessert, and your dog is with you and you're sitting by the fire, and this is the human realm. And beneath that are the 3 lower realms, which are more suffering. The animal realm, so your dog is in the animal realm, and so is your parakeet and your goldfish and all the other animals of the world. And it's the realm of stupidity, because animals do the same things repetitively, much more over and over than human beings who have more refined sensibilities. And beneath that is the realm of the hungry ghosts. That's the realm of beings that feel impoverished, that feel that they're constantly in need of something. And so hungry ghosts are depicted in the iconography, the classic hungry ghosts. There are many kinds of hungry ghosts, but the classic one has a tiny little neck, huge belly, and a teeny little mouth, because they can only take 1 drop of liquid and 1 grain of rice in at a time, and this belly's huge and they're really hungry. And beneath that is the hell realm, which is the worst of all the realms, especially of the 3 lower realms, because it's the realm of anger, hatred, fear, which produces anger and hatred. And it's full of pain. And so this practice of shamatha and vipassana of bringing your awareness back into what's real, out of the fantasies of all of these realms, these dhatus, into this space, and using the shamatha element, the breath perhaps, or the sound of this voice, could be anything, but it's very, very particular, and it's very precise, and it brings you back from dreams. And so this practice is the cure for the realms, for being in the realms, and for which means the cure for neurosis. It brings you out of neurosis and into sanity, awareness. Now, he says, I'm remembering, he said, figure and ground simultaneously. The ground is this space. The figure is the breath going out into it, a highlight, dissolving. And the two happen at the same time. And then you become, the more you practice this, you become convinced that developing shamatha and vipassana in this way is not only to cut the three lower realms, but the whole, all realms of desire, because they're all neurotic and they're all having to do with delusion. None of them are about reality. And then coming back to vipassana with this awareness of the precision within it, space and precision, figure and ground. This image on your computer screen and the sound of this voice and this image in the middle of it. That is the vipassana element, the space, and the highlight, which is shamatha. So we practice these four legs of miracle. Strong interest means that the more we come back into this, the more we become interested in it. We become interested in our lives. We could become connoisseurs about how to blow my nose, about what to have for dinner, about that wonderful little chablis. And we begin to develop terrific effort, good effort, the effort of coming back into awareness, which is also, this coming back is called recollection. The term in Sanskrit is smriti. In the Theravadins call it sati. And so they practice satipatthana in Southeast Asia, which is the practice of coming back constantly. And investigation, you examine yourself constantly. You're constantly so intelligent because you're right here. You're not lost in dreams, that you can examine yourself and how you're working. And you have a sense of freedom and liberation that comes along with all of this. Freedom from what? Freedom from the panics, the absorption in fear and desire, in wantingness, in feeling that things aren't enough. Freedom from that. Tremendous freedom. Shamatha vipassana is the only way that could bring you to this sanity. There is no other way. This is the teaching of Buddhism. So now we're on what are called the 5 paths, and we're on the third of these paths, the path of unification. We just finished the first path, the path of accumulation, which was divided into 3 parts, and we finished the third. And now we're going to take a look at the path of unification, which is the second path. It's the second of the 5. The third path is is very interesting path. We're going to get to that too. That's the path where you begin to see emptiness, which means reality. Begin to see shunyata. But let's leave that for another time. Here we're talking about the path of unification, the second path. So when a person has developed their shamatha vipassana practice, not only on the cushion, but also in daily life, you bring this practice of coming aware and being aware of the space and the highlights within it in daily life, meditation and action. And this is the path of unification, the second path, which connects the ordinary samsaric person with higher beings, arhats and bodhisattvas, who are appearing at the very end of the second path of unification and into the third path of vision. You begin to realize that emptiness and losing one's concept of self is no longer something to be afraid of, but really something that is going to enhance, bring life into your life. Color, vividness, intelligence, heart. You begin to realize that you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. This meditative experience is called Nampar Mitokpa in Tibetan, which means complete non-conceptualization. See, right now, you can look at this screen that you're on and hear these words, and you don't have to think. It's all presenting itself for you. This is non-conceptualization, complete non-conceptual. Then you'll have a thought, do I really understand this? Is that any good? Do I like this teaching? And then you're having thoughts, but then the thoughts disappear. Every thought has a beginning and end. And when it ends, here you are, in the realm of the senses. Complete absence of concept, if only for an instant, or it could be longer. And in this way, you realize the three marks of existence. They're completely understood and actualized. Suffering. Suffering is trying to hold on to something with thought. Impermanence. That everything is impermanent, whether it's neurotic or sane, whether it's real or unreal. Everything is arising and passing away. And egolessness. That the sense of I, ego, is just a mental creation that comes and goes. Meanwhile, there's all of this, all around me, unstoppably, continuously. He says, Shamatha Vipassana, this practice, space and precision, is the only way you can get to this, the only way you can approach true reality, which is called shunyata, emptiness. Empty of what? Empty of confusion, empty of the conceptualization completely. We're not there yet. We're beginning to be on the edges of it. But when you begin to realize that what reality is empty of concept, the concept is just a needless add-on, then you are beginning to touch on shunyata. Shunyata means emptiness. Shunya is empty, ta is a nominative, which turns it into a ness. And this transforms you from subhuman or subsentient being to a supersentient being, which is called in the tradition at the lower level of the path an arhat, and at the middle level of the path, the Mahayana level, a bodhisattva, an awakened being. Bodhi means awake, sattva means being. And this is what we're heading towards. So you develop this discrimination, this intense intelligence. You see, because this is intelligence. We're coming back from dreams. Dreams make us stupid. They take us away from what's really real, into the realm of fantasy. They come and go. You can't even remember what you dreamt yesterday. And we are coming back into intelligence. It has 4 stages: heat, peak, patience, and higher dharma. Heat has nothing to do with yogic practices like Dumo, raising the inner heat. That's something you may or may not have ever heard of. It's a much higher part of Mahamudra teaching, and we're not talking about that at all. He says this is getting a hint of shunyata, which means you begin to fall in love with the beauty, the vividness of this world when we let go of concept and see it nakedly. It appears very vivid and beautiful and luminous. maybe to say beautiful isn't a good idea because it implies a value judgment. But the world appears very, very vividly and luminously. The colors, this pink of the flesh, the white of the hair, the black of the sweater, the sound of the voice, the smell of dinner cooking, whatever it might be. So you're giving up your desires, they've gone away, so you no longer feel the desolateness, the loneliness, and the pain of the three marks of existence. The three marks: impermanence, suffering, egolessness. You're letting them go. And letting them go, and what's there afterwards? This space full of phenomena. So you've begun to get a glimpse of the Mahayana, of Shunyata, the greater path. And you have a feeling of delightfulness. That this open awareness can be utterly free, beautiful, full of pleasure in a subtle way, the pleasure of the beauty, of the vividness. The second point is called peak, peak or tsemo in Tibetan. It's as the sense of, he says, once in a lifetime, you're just beginning to touch a sensitive point of your development. You have to be able to live with this explosive insight here. Oh my gosh, I can let all of my worries and dreams. That's explosive. That's radical. It is explosive because for the first time there is the possibility, he says, of becoming superhuman, or at least not neurotic human. There's a sharpness to it inside you, he said, as though you had swallowed a razor blade and it is just about to cut you inside out, or as if you'd swallowed an atom bomb and it is about to explode. A sense of magnificent and somewhat terrifying sharpness is taking place within your being, an enormous conviction that begins to develop. Then the third point is patience, sopa in Tibetan. You're willing to wait to receive the teachings. The teachings are a part of your system, and you're not impatiently waiting for the next excitement, the next little treasure. So you develop enormous mental power to memorize words you heard from the teacher and read in the teachings. And your memory becomes better. Sharp memory and powerful recollection. And the fourth point, higher Dharma. You are a holder of this Dharma. You are beginning to develop the pride that you truly understand these teachings, that you're a holder of this awareness, this vipassana, as well as the shamatha, the precision that lives within the vipassana, within the space. And you have a sense that you're becoming a part of the lineage, of this lineage of people who have tread this path to enlightenment. These four stages are the last development in the path of unification. And then he talks about 5 perceptions. And they are, first, the combination of the first 2 stages of discrimination, heat and peak, the approach to emptiness, the realization of the 3 marks. You begin to realize they're really true. A sense of delightfulness, a sense of enormous conviction that something sharp and explosive is happening. Suzuki Roshi once was asked, the great Zen master of the Zen Center in San Francisco, if he could sum up all of Buddhism in just a couple of words. A guy named Alan Chadwick, whom I knew, asked him that question, not expecting an answer. Roshi answered, everything changes, the truth of impermanence. So this leads to the development of energies of perception, known in Tibetan as the five wanpos. Five, and wanpo na. Na means five, and wanpo means powers. He translates it as the five sense organs, the meditative equivalent of the sense organs: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. That's it. And these are developed, these things, and heightened through the practice of shamatha vipassana and the realization of the three marks that heightens our appreciation of these senses. They become much more vivid. We begin to experience moments of extreme vividness of the world. It says, you know how to bring together the teachings, the teacher, the student, and the practitioner's means and methods into one unity as a personal experience. These five, and he says, the only reason you're not able to relate with the teachings in the beginning is that you are unable to identify with them as personal experience. And we begin to be able to do that more and more as we tread this path. And the key to it is shamatha vipassana. And it's the practice that you've all been doing every day, morning and evening. Resting in space, going out with the breath, letting the breath dissolve into space, going off into dreams, realizing you're dreaming, and then coming back. Coming back to what? This. It's already here. So we identify more and more with these teachings as very, very personal experience. So these five perceptions are faith in your discovery, that you actually believe that it's true and it's working. Exertion, which is the good news that there is an alternative to samsaric existence, confusion and suffering and unhappiness and depression and all of that hatred, brings both discipline and delight. You aren't tired, but you're highly energized to study and work and meditate. Recollection is the third of these five perceptions, meaning awareness and diligence in your vipassana practice is the basis of both sitting meditation and meditation in action. Awareness and diligence, 24 hours. There's no vacation from it. In fact, it is the vacation from suffering, neurosis. You have no interest in anything but awakening your bodhicitta, your awakened mind. And more, the more we practice, the more we give into it, it begins to awaken by itself. One pointedness, samadhi in Sanskrit, dingedzin in Tibetan. Even ordinary thoughts of aggression or sex become inspiration of the path. You have complete conviction in awareness, absorption in awareness. And this produces a feeling of well-being, that you can come back to this awareness of the present moment at any time and leave neurosis, fear, unhappiness behind, coming back into simple awareness. Finally, the last is intellect, prajna. Because as we come back into this awareness, we become more and more intelligent. We're giving up our dreams and we're seeing what's happening in the present moment with tremendous precision. This face, this sweater, this sign of age, this bald head, in case of what you're looking at, but whatever it may be, your body, your speech, your mind. So an intellectual understanding of the subtleties of the Dharma and the whole path. And you begin to become more and more confident about your intelligence, about what you're coming back to. So this is the preparation for the Mahayana, this path of unification, this path of shamatha vipassana. It's not the Mahayana yet, but you sense the possibility of letting go of the sense of I and all of the unhappiness and fear and neurosis that constellates around that sense of I. Every time you come back into the present moment, this vipassana, this space with the awareness in it, that precision of this sound of this voice, this finger pointing, that shamatha element, the precision element. Every time you do that, you sense the possibility of treading on the path of the bodhisattva and becoming a Mahayanist who is fully dedicated to working with sentient beings. The more we practice this, the more we begin to get inspired to be of service to others, because we have learned how to be of service to ourselves. And being of service to others is so inspiring, so heartwarming. It's compassion, and compassion doesn't mean feeling sorry for, it's love. So tremendous conviction comes up. You're excited by the possibility that you might enter into the Mahayana, become a bodhisattva, become terrifically inspired, both by your own path and by the opportunity to be of service to others in love, compassion, and intelligence. So I'll stop there and we can have a discussion. There we go. Philip.
So I'll start. Thank you, John, and thank you, Dan. So these paths are very different. Um, and I really do like the path of unification. It's like a glide path to the Mahayana. And I think a big part of that is that we're starting to leave the ego behind. And what is equally important, but only touched on here a little bit, is we're developing this sense of becoming part of the lineage. So Trungpa mentions that on page 513 when he's talking about developing discrimination. And in this part 4, higher Dharma, you have a sense that you're becoming part of the lineage. And then that's it. But it's so important. It's part of what John is talking about when he talks about shifting your allegiance. So when I was doing the class on the first part of the path of accumulation, it all seemed so horrible, right? It was suffering and it was egolessness seemed like the most horrible thing because you're leaving your ego behind, and impermanence was this horrible thing. But it's not. That's all junk you want to jettison. And what do you get in exchange? You get the universe in exchange. And the first part of that is this feeling of becoming part of this lineage that goes back 2,600 years. So for a long time, I thought the lineage just meant lineage teachers, right? Talopa and Naropa. But no, every single one of us is part of the lineage.
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, that's so important. Especially the people in this room. All of you are involved, have made a commitment of one kind or another to yourselves in this context of this tradition, which is really wonderful. I think the more we do that, we believe more and more in the truth of this path and its efficacy. These chapters, I mean, this is volume 1. This is supposed to be the beginner's stuff. It's so profound.
Yeah, another huge thing that you touched on that's just touched on here with a couple of sentences is the whole concept of where do you get to? You get to, people are embarrassed to use the words. You get to compassion, you get to love. That's what's underneath everything. When you scrape away the ego, that's what's left.
And intelligence,
Yeah.
extreme intelligence, prajna. That's what he ended with. Prajna, intelligence, clear seeing. Miriam.
Yeah, I had a quick question with respect to the concept of wisdom in relationship to prajna, because it does seem like, you know, there's a greater intelligence in the moment with with the insights and the practice. But then later we hear about wisdom and it's not quite the same. In the Vajrayana, I think there is a discussion of wisdom. And so I just wanted to know what you thought the difference was
Between which?
between prajna and wisdom.
Now, the term for wisdom in Sanskrit, prajna is Sanskrit, and the term for wisdom is jnana. And it depends on the context. It depends on which teachings you're listening to. One common approach says that prajna still has the idea of overcoming duality, whereas jnana is beyond that. Jnana is that this space itself is one with intelligence, that is self-intelligent. There is no known at all. Whereas somehow in prajna, there's still a subtle idea, very subtle, of knower and known. Now, there are other contexts, though, where prajna is beyond that. So it just depends on which teachings you're involved with.
Yeah, that answers my question, no, because I did remember a different term in Sanskrit for the distinction, and it's coming back to me now.
Both of them have to do with non-dual knowledge. Prajna, pra is an intensifier, jnana is the root of the word to know. Okay, so it's sort of super knowing, prajna. Jnana is just jnana, there it is again, like prajna, right? Prajna is again the root of the word to know. Na is a nominative. In Tibetan, it's rikpa. Jnana is rikpa. And all of the more advanced practices, well, all the Vajrayana practices that you will ever be involved with emphasize rikpa, jnana. But they usually call it rikpa because they're using Tibetan language. Rigpa is like the heart of all of these advanced practices. It's non-dual, no I or other, knowing, and it's reality. It's this. We're sitting in the middle of it. God. I see any puzzled looks there, Fred.
I'm a bit puzzled by recollection.
That's a good one. You got to realize it's not talking about remembering something like, what year did George Washington cross the Delaware? That's not the kind of recollection that's being talked about here. It has to do with coming back out of dream into awareness. That's the recollection. Smriti. in Sanskrit, sati in Pali, satipatthana. The practice of satipatthana is of coming back to awareness in the Pali tradition. Shmitipatthana in the Sanskrit.
But then the way he ends it, that section of you realize that the practice is threatening, because he's talking about, what did you say before that? You're aware that you're about to give up your lovable world, the world of desire. You begin to have all kinds of panic and fear and feeling that good old days were beautiful, but now there is a threat.
But now there is a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Threat to your neurosis.
Yeah. Or a threat to the samsaric world, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about.
And remembering, I guess the first path, right? Where you start to realize the horrors of samsara. That's a good rhyme. The horrors of samsara.
That's good.
Yeah.
If I could add something to that, and anybody feel free to correct me if I'm off on this, if you think I am, or different opinion. If you think about um, that recollection, as he described it, as I tried to present, was it's not recollecting the past, but it's the present experience of of the past, right? So we can be if you've ever had the experience of thinking back on a past and then getting on some event in the past or some situation, and you when you're lost in thought, you are living in this mind constructed world of the past, right? But if we think about it, when we're living in it, we're not aware of it, and we get so hung up on that, as I'm sure most of us are familiar with, just ruminating about it, maybe reliving it, maybe relitigating it, maybe just recreating it, and that's a familiar feeling, and that's where the threat is in terms of becoming aware of it. But if the past can feel so real, but when we're aware of it, the past is just thoughts in the current moment, about the past or related to the past. The past doesn't exist except as thoughts in the current moment, right? In the present immediate moment.
Yeah.
And that awareness is the differentiation between recollection and normal remembering, as he said in the chapter that I was going over, that it's not just simply remembering the details of our life. Because when we do that, we really get caught up in living in them sometimes.
Not only that, but that kind of remembering is so fictional. You remember what happened yesterday, you're just picking out teeny little highlights. Somebody else remembering the same thing would describe it differently. So our rememberings, in that sense, in the normal sense, are fictions. This recollection means coming back from those fictions, those dreams, to this. This is what we're recollecting right now.
And it seems like that the recollecting is also about building a personal experience, embodied experience as well. It gives like somebody swings at your head, you block, right? It's kind of natural. And the next path of unification, they talk about how the personal experience is where the five powers come from. So it seems like those two are important, getting there, to that personal experience. We've got that experience of remembering, oh yeah, I'm in a dream, I'm making this up. Let me come back.
And we begin to discover the delight of freedom from our thoughts, freedom from believing our dreams. all those things we think about ourselves, a lot of which is so negative. And even when it's positive, it's negative because it's trying to counter something negative.
Yeah, Bernie described it to me as it's like a poor anesthetic.
Quan, you have your hand up?
I have a question. It seems like there's two places on page 506. It says, it is an important point that having already accomplished shamatha and vipassana independent of each other, we can combine them together by application of the two types of this. And on 508, it says, you cannot practice shamatha vipassana unless you have gone through shamatha first and vipassana afterward. You need to have training in both practice separately before coming to shamatha vipassana practice, because combining the two takes a lot of effort. So my question is, how much shamatha practice you need before you go into vipassana practice, and how much of these two practice separately that you need before you can go to combine them. So it seems like he's emphasizing pretty clearly you need to have training in both independently before you can combine them effectively. So the practice here, we are combining the both, which is very good. I think it's very, very good practice, very important. But for me, I feel I still have quite a bit of distraction. So the mind still go off. So I'm wondering if I need to have more shamatha practice so that the mind can be more stable. I don't know how you view about this, because he's emphasizing quite a bit on developing those practice separately. You have training enough before you're combining them. So I'm just wondering how much, to what extent, then you can proceed.
First of all, this changed at some point. This is you're pointing out something that actually I don't remember him saying, but he must have done it at seminary. Because in the beginning, you see, a lot of people came, including myself, who had practiced in Hindu environments. We'd practiced in a yoga studio. There have been people who had done transcendental meditation, TM. And those are Hindu styles, and those are pure shamatha. That's what you learn in a yoga studio. You're learning shamatha. And when you do TM, you're learning shamatha, one pointed focus on an object. With TM, it's a mantra. In a yoga studio, it could be anything. Maybe a mantra might be the breath, depends on the style. And so many of us, as we came to him in the early 1970s, came from those environments. I certainly did. And so he felt that we didn't need to practice to understand shamatha because we already had it. Now, if there are people who have never practiced shamatha, it'd be good for them to practice it. Probably you don't need a lot. It doesn't take long. Each person might be different. I mean, I would think, a few weeks of shamatha, if you'd practiced every day, that'd be plenty. I would think, but it would depend on the person. And I still practice shamatha, and I'll tell you why and how. Sometimes at night, I'm lying in bed. The more, as I get older, I keep waking up more and more. My body is giving me problems, lots of problems, So it wakes me up in the middle of the night. And I can't go back to sleep because I start thinking about something that's bothering me. My taxes, my relationship with a difficult person, whatever it might be. Those thoughts, those stories that revolve in my mind, it's very difficult to deal with them with Vipassana. But with shamatha, you can, because what I do, and you can try this yourselves, is I count my breaths. Out breath, 1. In breath. Out breath, 2. In breath. You pick a point at which you're going to turn around. I pick 7. It's pretty low count. Some people go to 14, some people 7, 14, 21. Those are sort of the traditional. And then I start over. Now, sometimes I'll be going out breath 1, out breath 2, and I'm thinking about something that's bothering me. Suddenly I find I'm on out breath 10, out breath 20. And at that point, your tendency is to go, darn, the instruction is don't beat yourself up for it. Just start over. And then also, I have this wonderful experience that I'll be thinking, this isn't working, I'm not getting to sleep. And the next thing I know, I'm waking up. It's like, it just happens, it works, and you didn't even know it was working. And suddenly you're waking up an hour or 2 or 3 or whatever it might be later. So I'm still practicing shamatha that way. Now, when I practice in the group or during the day, I don't practice that. I practice shamatha vipassana. Why? Because this is what my teachers have given me. And I want to tell you, I'm working now with a teacher who teaches almost nothing but Dzogchen. Dzogchen is the great perfection, right? It's the ultimate in the Nyingma school. That's all he teaches. The first time I ever got instruction from him was back around in the early 2000s. I didn't even know him then. And he came up and taught at what is now called Drala Mountain Center, up outside of Fort Collins in the mountains. And I had only gotten this shamatha vipassana from Trungpa Rinpoche. Suddenly, this guy, whom I never met before, is giving the same instruction. It's part of Dzogchen. And so that was really an eye-opener for me. I thought it was something that Trungpa Rinpoche had cooked up on his own, idiosyncratic to him. It's part of the tradition. This combination of shamatha and vipassana, going out with the breath, dissolving into space. That's exactly what this teacher taught more than 20 years ago at Shambhala Mountain Center. So we are in very good hands that go back centuries. Now, if you want to practice shamatha, great. But then at some point, definitely come back to vipassana and mix it with the shamatha. The order is first you practice the shamatha, then you're introduced to vipassana, and then you mix the two. Or just mix the two from the start. That's the way Khenpo Namdrol, this teacher I'm talking about, did it. And if you want to discuss it with me or with Barry or somebody, one of your whoever you trust to talk about meditation, Dan, happy to do it. But I practice this shamatha a lot at night. It really works. Helps me sleep. Sorry, I went on. But Trungpa Rinpoche really taught this mix of shamatha vipassana a lot. I don't remember him ever teaching pure shamatha. And I don't see anybody here who would have been back there then and remember it. I just don't remember him doing it. I think it was because all of us were so coming to him from, these traditions. Most of us had meditated before in Hindu tradition, in Hindu settings. Fred.
It seems like with this technique, right? Because I've run into the same problem as Quan did, is to start. It's as simple as just cutting through and realizing, oh, I'm distracted, and just keep doing it over and over again. And I think Shanti Deva put this well in his chapter on bodhicitta. Talked about even those with inconstant bodhicitta will attain enlightenment. And it seems like that's what we're doing. We're just planting little, even if it's a half a second, it's like, oh, we're just doing it over and over and over and over again, which can be quite irritating.
I
Hence
find I fall into dreams so much. I come back to the meditation, I'm doing it for a while, I'm thinking, okay, now I'm doing it. Next thing I know, I've been dreaming for the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it might be. And you come back again.
Not just me.
Huh?
It's not just me.
No, not just you.
And something I discovered about Chogyam Trungpa that I asked John about, but it blew my mind, that he teaches what Dilgo Kensei Rinpoche called the backwards path of Ati. He starts at the end.
He doesn't actually teach Ati, but he teaches these beginning teachings that we're getting here, tonight. You don't find this anywhere else. This is the Ati influence. Definitely. This is an advanced approach to the beginning teachings, meaning it's deeper, it's more profound. Sarah.
Thank you. I have a question. So I'm a gardener, that's my job. And one thing I'm discovering is that because of my devotion to this path and renunciation, I'll find that if there's a garden workshop for a week somewhere, I'd rather not waste my time going to do that. I'd rather go on a meditation retreat. So, my question is, can I count on awareness to inform me on making intelligent decisions in the garden? Like every time I try to pick up Rudolf Steiner's agriculture book, I can't get through very many pages because I'd rather read a book on the Dharma. So I've been really wondering, like, can I count on awareness to inform me as a gardener?
I'm still not understanding the issue. Dan, do you?
I think kind of, but from my perspective, but my response is you can also count on that to change.
Like count on like maybe one day I'll actually want to read a book by Rudolf
Yeah,
Steiner.
I think yeah. I mean, if you, I was thinking this yesterday. I forgot um, what was said in the discussion, what made me think of it. But uh, and John had quoted yesterday too or today he did, but that quote from Suzuki Roshi about summing up Buddhism in one sentence. Everything changes. I think the asking the question if you can count on your awareness to change is a reflection of the basic self-doubts that we're addressing, which is confidence in our ability to be present and spontaneous and right here and now. And as that confidence comes, you might find that your interest changes in that. So it's not a matter of whether we can count on our awareness, it's a matter of doubting our awareness to begin with.
Well, I guess my question is that if I am very present in the garden
Hmm. Then you right.
and I'm practicing being getting rid of all of my conceptions and just being fully present. Will I be able to make intelligent decisions in the garden based on that being present rather than needing to go to become a horticulture major in college? Um,
So think of it, I would say, sure, absolutely, of course. Think of it on the most common level. If you're absent-minded and you're weeding, what kind of job do you do? A horrible job, right? You take out all the seedlings because you're not paying attention. So the more you can be aware in the garden, the better you will be as a gardener. And that'll extend to every single thing.
But also, if you learn a lot about horticulture, that will enhance your activity in the garden.
yeah, I just struggle because when I think about going back to school and getting a major in horticulture, I think about all of the time that I won't be able to be spending meditating and practicing.
I don't know, to me, it sounds like a great combination.
You can bring the Dharma to everything, right?
Yeah.
Bring everything to the Dharma, right? That's what I was thinking of yesterday when John was kind of as an exercise going through everybody on the screen and saying, like, Philip's a retired dentist, and which allows him to devote more time to the Dharma, right? And he said Dan was a psychotherapist, and was doing that and whatever. But my immediate thought was, I don't know that being employed gives me any less time to study Dharma, because I'm bringing the Dharma to everything that I do more and more, especially, I mean, I think it's especially applicable to my profession, but my work now professionally is so much informed by the Dharma, you know. And I don't see one as taking away from the other, and the other is taking away from the one at all. You know?
Thank you. It's probably
And
not the answer I wanted to hear, but thank you.
not the answer. What is the answer you wanted to hear? I think that would be a
I can
good
just devote
question.
all of my time to the Dharma.
Yeah, right. I think you can. I think
Are you working on your Nundro?
Yeah, and that's the other part. I mean, that's 2 hours a night, and how would I have time to study for an exam in horticulture if I'm doing prostrations, you know?
Well, there's the shorter version of it now that's out now. You know,
I know.
you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about that some more. And I would like to offer for anybody who's well into their prostrations, to get them involved with this teacher that I've been working with now for, when did I start? 2003, so 21 years. And he will only take you as a student, maybe, if you're into your nundro. I've seen him take people who are in the middle of prostrations because they're very advanced teachings. And you're getting jettisoned right into Dzogchen, great perfection. And they're really beautiful, really gorgeous. I mean, there are other approaches. Lots of my friends take the path of creation and completion. They're doing Vajrayogini practice and Chakrasamvara. I mean, Michael Kern is going off to do Chakrasamvara and retreat in just a few days. Each one of us helps others with what we can.
It's almost time. I'm sorry, it's almost time to end, and I just wanted to respond to Sarah before we close.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. And that is, you asked if you could trust awareness, and I think you can. I think if you're feeling really inspired and compelled to devote your energy and time to the Dharma, you can trust that. And I think that at some point you'll start to feel the need to then pursue the studies or horticulture or whatever. I think you can trust yourself for that, your awareness.
Thank you, Barry.
Well, we should end. You're right, Barry. 6:58. Wow. Who's leading the chants? That's Sarah. Okay. I'll put them up. Thanks, everyone.
We will close with a prayer for peace, and then by dedicating the merit earned by our practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. By the blessings of enlightened and compassionate ones, by the power of my positive actions of 3 times and my prayers of pure aspiration, may wars, conflicts, epidemics, and all other maladies dissolve in this world, and may the earth and all who live on this earth enjoy the abundance of well-being. May all learn to live lovingly with each other. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigden's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you,
Yes.
Sarah.
Thanks, Val.
Here.
All best to you and your family, Dan.
Thank you. I'm going to send out some pictures later. Okay.
Didn't you
What
just
did you
become
get,
a
Dan?
a
Yeah, that was
grandfather
beautiful pictures.
a year ago?
Grandson, born at 4
Ah,
a.m. this morning. Yeah.
oh my God. 4 a.m. you said?
Yeah, this morning. Yeah.
Oh, geez. So you didn't sleep much.
Well, I had one ear on the phone and everything. But
Wow.
yeah, but it was good. It was a fine not sleeping, and it's yeah.
No.
I'm going to
Yeah.
turn
I
off
mean,
the
everything's
record
great.
at
I'm
this
sorry
point.
she had to have a C-section, but it's just the way it goes. But she's
Yeah.
everyone's doing good. Yeah, and
Well, it's not unusual with getting induced